Thank you so much for having me here today. Let me just say I'm very pleased and honored to be here and to have the opportunity to represent you. I could not do that without my bride of, I won't say the number of years, but we were betrothed when we were single-digit age. And so knowing we didn't come from Arkansas, but you might think so. But you know, this political activity is so important, and yet many times it's just absolutely brutal. I'm going to be real honest with you. You'll find that about me. I'm going to be honest with you. And without somebody there to help balance it out, it just doesn't work real well. And I get asked all the time, why do you do this? Why would you even bother to do this? Don't you get tired of people, constantly beating on you and disagreeing with you? And so I know that, and the answer to that is yes. Yes, it does get burdensome. It absolutely does. But for us, it's more than just a job. It truly is a calling. And what I'd like to be able to do is to run a meeting like Kathy Rogers. That's what I'd really like to do. I mean, she's just to the point, and let's get it done. So thank you, Kathy, for what you do and how you do it. I like it. It encourages me. I'm in an august body of 150 elected officials, where we are a collegial institution where everyone is vested with the same power of having one vote. Now, what was interesting about that is that it's almost like being on NFL draft day, and we're going to see the NFL draft day come up here real soon, because you get chosen for a spot, and then once your number comes up, you've got 15 minutes to make your selection. And I'm talking about in the Capitol. And so Cheryl and I were there, and we were working, and our number came up, and we had 15 minutes to select a desk on the floor of the House, a parking space, and an office in the Capitol. True story. I don't know if you know that, but that's actually how it works. That's how it actually works. And so we did that, and we did it with, deliberation and with thought, and it was worked out perfectly. I found a hallway where there was a preponderance of Democrats. I like that. I like that because I know what we think, and I know how we think, I know what we know, but I want to know what they know, and I want to know how they feel and how they think. And so it's important to be able to do that, because as I found out during the session, it takes a little bit of everything to make it work. Now, I'm a lot smarter than I look. Now, you don't ask Cheryl that, but I am. I went into the legislature, and there were plenty of people who thought I couldn't make it, Miss Taylor. Now, Miss Taylor didn't think that. She knew I could make it, but there were plenty of people who wanted me to fail. Imagine that. 1865, with emancipation, proclamation hits Galveston. The Democrats are in control of the state of Texas, and they say there'll never be a Republican to represent Galveston. And that's true. That's true. I'm the first. I'm the first. So when I get to Austin, I find out that I'm one of 3,000 people who've ever represented the state of Texas in the legislature. It's very humbling to know that that's the case. And I want to do a good job. And in order to do that, I realized that very quickly I'm going to have to learn how this process works. But I went in like this. I felt that it was important to respect the process and to respect the people that have been there. Let me just say, Cheryl and I have been involved. We woke up, not in 2010 when the revolution showed up, and all of a sudden the country says we're in trouble. We woke up in about 1980, and we said, we're in trouble. We've got 24% interest rates. I'm trying to start a small business, and the country's out of control. We thought it was bad then. But we got involved, and we didn't go in and start telling the Republican Party how to do business. We went in and joined the party and went to work. And that's what I would encourage everyone to do. It's easy to sit back and criticize the process and criticize the people that are engaged. Don't do that. Go in and go to work. A wise man once told me, Follow the scripture. A man's gift makes room for him at the table. A man's gift makes room for him. Now that term man is universal. It's talking about all human beings. We all have something to offer. But if you'll find a way to get to work, if you'll just look for ways to be helpful, you'll be amazed at what you can get done. You'll be amazed at what you can get done. So we did that. There were 6,276 pieces of legislation that crossed my desk this past session. Less than 1,300 of those were passed into law. But it is a barrage. It is a barrage. And so it's very much a challenge to, there's no way you can assimilate all that. We'll pick out one bill and we'll focus on it and we'll study it and we'll go at the consuming public. I woke up on the floor of the House and I talked to another representative and said, hey, I'm taking a look at your bill 1898. I just want to know where you are and are there going to be amendments to it? Wayne, I have no idea what you're talking about. When you file 60, you don't have it memorized. I don't want to scare you. You don't have it memorized. And there's a lot of things and there's a lot of reasons that legislation is filed. Some of it's never going to see light of day. Let me give you an example. There was a bill that had been filed in 3 previous sessions. There was a young lady, a young girl, 14 years old, was kidnapped from Texas City and was raped and murdered and left under a bridge on I-10 in Chambers County, dead. And that case had been cold for about 12, 14 years. And the mother had been persistent in coming to the legislature saying, would you do something about this? Well, the assistant DA in Chambers County pulled the DNA off that case, that cold file, and ran it back through the system and got a hit. And they found the guy. He was from Texas City. He was a welder, and he worked from here to Florida, and they think possibly that he was involved in 14 of those. 14 of those. Now, you would think that would be a no-brainer. Let's just do the right thing, everybody lined up. Do you know when we put that bill out there, it becomes a matter of you're invading people's rights. So, I get that. So, that bill got blocked in committee. I could not get it out. And I don't know if you know how persistent I am, but I'm pretty persistent. I don't give up easy. I tell people I've been whipped a few times. I've never been made to like it. So I find a way around that. I find a young Democrat trial lawyer that has a bill that is germane to this, and I go to her and I say, can we tack this on? Can I tack on an amendment to add this to this? Or we can pull DNA, because when I sent the bill in the defense of the people on the committee, it came back with a fiscal footnote of about $60 million, which I knew was a farce. There's no way it cost $60 million to set this up. I went to committee meetings I didn't have to go to. I'm not on appropriations, but I went to appropriations hearings because that's where the money's spent. And so I went. They meet at 7 o'clock, as Kim and Greg well know. Greg's on appropriation, does a great job. They don't, most folks don't want to be on it because you meet that early. But I went because I wanted to learn. And I found out that when I heard a guy testify from a medical school about their DNA data bank, I pulled him aside and I said, what does it cost to do this? He said, literally pennies. Yeah. Not 60 million, pennies. He said, we can do this. He said, it's not a big deal. So that gave me courage to press on. So I went to this person and I said, we need to work together on this. Would you be willing to do that? Here's what I did. I picked a chair. My desk is on the aisle next to the back mic, and if you want to get up and talk against or for something, you go to the back mic. It's not like the Senate. The Senate, Ms. Taylor, they have their own microphone. They stand in front of the desk, kind of like a country club, in my opinion. No offense. But it's a very relaxed setting, and everybody gets to talk. And it's not that way in the House. So my desk is back. I'm on the edge, but I'm kind of like an eagle on a perch, Because I can see the whole landscape in front of me because it slows to the front. I can see everybody moving, and little pockets of people get over here, they start talking, their deal's being made, and so I'll get up and ease over there in my terminology and listen in and find out what's happening. And so when I would see someone that I didn't really know that well, when their desk mate would leave, I would go over there and sit down beside them, introduce myself, talk to them, give them a chance to get to know me and ask me questions. And then later on, guess what? That young trial lawyer was one of them. And I went back over there and I sat down beside her and I said, hey, would you have any interest in helping me? She said, I sure would. I said, well, here's what we need to do. We just tack this on here. She said, I'll be glad to do that. She gets up, presents her bill, it passes. No objections. So it works. So I tell you that because good legislation doesn't have to be partisan. It doesn't have to be Democrat or Republican, or because you're going to find that there are people that you can work with. There are people that you can work with. And it's just an incredible opportunity to be able to do that. And I was able to get much more done. And here's what I would say. Walking in, I received favor. I received favor. There were people in leadership that wanted me there, were happy for me to be there. I was the first one that had ever been in that place. And so I had an opportunity to sit down with them one-on-one, talk to them about some issues that we were going to be facing, what we could do to change it. There were changes that were made that people didn't even know were coming. I wasn't sure how it was going to work out. But I realized that you don't do it on your own, but you do it through relationships. You do it through relationships. It is a very relational business. When I got stuck on something in the House, I remembered that I had a friend in the Senate. He was the lieutenant governor. Nice friend to have. I had some senators that were friends of mine as well. But I couldn't involve them because it was involving our district, and I didn't want to put them in the crosshairs. I didn't want to put them in a bad position, so I needed to work behind the scenes. So I walked into the Senate. It's very different. The sergeant at arms says, hey, Wayne, knows me. I'm like, hey, how are you? He said, go on up there. And I said, no, I really don't feel comfortable doing this. No, just go on up there. Just go on up there and get on the podium. I said, no, that's just not me. He said, go on up there. So I walked up there and I stood at the edge, and they're passing legislation, and the gavel is flying, and there's papers everywhere, and I'm like, wow. Lieutenant Governor looks in and says, hey, Wayne, how you doing today? I said, I'm doing great. Governor, how are you today? He said, how can I help you? Come on up. I said, I have a little problem over here in the house, and I need some help on it. And he said, what is it? And I said, well, it's on this piece of paper. I said, I need this to go away. He said, I'll take care of it. He stick it in his pocket, goes right on. Now, you wouldn't think that's how it works, but that's exactly how it works. That's how it works for me. Now, somebody else may be able to do it differently, and probably does. But for me, that's what I use to my advantage in building relationships. It is a matter of trust. We have a huge state. We have what some people would consider huge problems. I would say we've got some opportunity. We have some incredible opportunity. We have an elected body that does indeed listen to the people and allows them to have a say in what goes on. So you probably have probably as good of a contingent for Friendswood as you can imagine. For Galveston County, as you can imagine, we have a very good team. We get on the same page. We do that in a hurry. We work together. Everyone is highly respected and does their part. Everybody has a different ability and a different gift to add to that mix, but it works very well. I am grateful. I had some fun along the way. It's very serious. Once it gets flying, it's very serious. But we had some fun as well. And I tell people this, and they're like, I'm not sure how that works. Well, the members' lounge is smaller than this in the house. It's smaller than this room. You can't get 25, 30 people at a time. But in that lounge are two little small freezers, and they're chocked full of Bluebell ice cream. So when people get a little testy, we'll take a break and go in and open up a pint of Bluebell, a half a pint of Bluebell. Well, Bluebell got pulled. You know, Bluebell got pulled. It got pulled off the shelf. They had a bacteria problem, and so we sat there for a week or two, and people's tempers got on edge, and we got cross with each other. And so I picked up the phone and I called Galveston Island. A friend of mine and Cheryl's has a creamery down there, makes his own ice cream. And I said, and it's called Hey Mikey's Ice Cream. I said, hey Mikey, can you get some ice cream to the legislature? He said, I can. So he delivered 300 cups of ice cream, and then brought another 300, and then we had to go to another order. We have a picture of the governor on the floor of the House and myself with Hey Mikey's ice cream. He's about to eat Hey Mikey's ice cream. So we put a little spotlight on Galveston County. We put a little spotlight on our local business. And so that's another part of it. What we want to do is to bring attention to our area, because we have the most diverse, we have the most impactful economic engine, I believe, in the entire state. As Cheryl and I cross the causeway and make our way around to Chambers County, we have the most awesome district in the entire state. No offense to Friendswood. No offense to Friendswood. But I see those chemical plants. You know, and I see there we have the University of Texas Medical Branch sits on the island. We have A&M Galveston. We have Galveston College, we have College of the Mainland. We go across, and we got another $7 billion worth of plants, now about to be $10 billion in Chambers County. And so it provides jobs, and it gives us an economic base from which to work. So that is what I would say in a nutshell. I'd be happy to attempt to answer any questions. Let me tell you what Henry Kissinger used to say. He said, let's see who has questions for the answers that I have today. So we'll try that.
Representative, could you possibly share a little bit about the 4 propositions that are on our ballot right now that some of us have already voted on and some of us will be voting on?
Yeah, let me, and I pulled them up. They're not the proposition 1 is replacing the property tax system. And you talked to me about that, and I understand that. Let me just say, I think there's 2 things that should not happen. I don't think our senior citizens should be taxed out of their homes.
And they are now.
They are. I don't think that's not right.
No.
And I don't think veterans, especially disabled veterans, people who are wounded veterans, I don't think they should be taxed out of their home.
Nope.
So what we're looking at is alternatives. I was talking to, I had multiple conversations with the chairman of Ways and Means, which is Greg's brother Dennis. We talked about this and what we could do with the appraisal district. Again, no offense, but the tax assessor collector just collects the taxes. The appraisal district is going to be the one that has the most impact on that. So we looked at several options. What do? We have an elected board. Is that one way to do it? Well, what makes more sense is to have a revenue cap and say, I don't care what your appraisal is. This is the most of revenue that you can collect in any one year. So it won't be tied to that. That's one option. Another option is to move away from that and to make it more equitable. And I think that's what we're asking here. This is a Republican issue. That means it would have to get on the ballot as a constitutional issue for the state to change it. This is sort of testing the waters and saying, what do taxpayers, what do Republicans, independents, people who are going to vote in this primary, what do they want the tax system to look like? We know it's fraught with problems. We understand that. How do we fix it? What do we do? So this just gives us some direction to say, should we move forward and look at alternative funding mechanisms? I think you're going to see that for us, the answer is going to be yes. The answer is going to be yes, we want to do that. I was a little concerned about Proposition 2 because it's talking about Texas cities and counties being required to comply with federal immigration laws or be penalized by loss of state funds. But all in all 4 of these, I would say yes on. I did say yes on. I said yes on all 4. we've got cities now that are stepping out on their own within the state of Texas. Let's just take Dallas, for instance. And they are becoming a sanctuary. They are a sanctuary city.
Houston is.
Yeah.
That proposition is very unclear the way it's written.
It is. I didn't like it.
I had to go back and read it several times.
I did too, Carrie. I did too. 'Cause I mean, what are they saying here? Do we want to be saddled with federal immigration law? We're going to say that that's what it is. So I think that particular proposition needs some clarification going forward if we're going to pursue it. But what we're talking about is in Texas enforcing the immigration laws. Texas has made an $800 million commitment this past session to secure the border.
Good.
Secure the border. And that means that we're going to hire the necessary resources, apply the necessary resources from aerial surveillance to infrared thermal surveillance to having boots on the ground. We're going to do everything possible that we can. And we sent a check to the president asking to pay it. We told him you owe us $559 million. We appreciate you putting the check in the mail to us.
You didn't get it yet.
No, we didn't get that. But we did have a press conference. Again, the chairman of Ways and Means, Chairman Bonin, held a check and had a press conference. And yeah, it's maybe for show, but you know what? You're sending a message because you're trying to let people know that we realize that we're applying your funds and it's a federal issue. It's a federal issue ultimately, but the feds don't care. So, Proposition 3, anybody have any questions about that, about collecting dues, labor union dues from public entities, public employee paychecks? That was a piece of legislation this time that did not get on the floor. It was there, but it didn't reach the floor. So, Proposition number 4, well, let me read it to you. Texas and its citizens should strongly assert 10th Amendment rights guaranteed by the U.S. Constitution, which states that the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states, respectively, or to the people. So the 10th Amendment just says exactly that. What is not specifically delineated to the federal government is reserved for the states. And that's the Constitution. That's the 10th Amendment. And that's the way it should be, but that's not what we're seeing today. I only hope, this is my own opinion. I only hope that we have a leader of the free world that is not only conservative, that is not only proud to be an American and wants to see America continue to grow and be the shining city on a hill, but not apologize for who we are and what we do, but that leader would be willing to undo what has been done, and that leader, and I'm talking about Obamacare, I'm talking about Dodd-Frank, I'm talking about this Iran deal that we just made. All of these things need to be undone. They absolutely need to be undone. Dodd-Frank has killed the banking business. It's absolutely killed the banking business. Obamacare is going to continue it's going to actually kick in next year for everybody, and it's going to continue to hurt business. And that's exactly what it's about. So I hope that we have somebody who'll stand up. And here's what I'll say too. I thought this at the time when Bill Clinton was elected. Looking back, he didn't do a half bad job compared to what we see today. But very creative, very creative. I hope we have someone that is that creative as well. Someone who will apply themselves and be creative to get things done and not say, well, I can't get this past this particular body or this particular vote. That doesn't seem to stop this president. That doesn't seem to stop this president at all. So I hope we have somebody that is that committed and that creative to getting conservative, and I'm going to say it, godly principles at the federal level. We need that. We need that. I think we're one generation away from losing our entire identity. It scares me when I see young people holding signs with Bernie Sanders rally saying free college and, I can't remember what the other one said, but free, wait a minute. There's no free money. I mean, we've already got free cell phones. But that's not reality. That's not reality. It just won't work, so. Anything else? Yes, ma'am.
Well, I'm a member of the chamber, but in this morning's meeting, I wanted to, make a statement, or request perhaps, that Obamacare has been a terrible disaster. However, we got into that situation because the people didn't read it, they just voted for it. And I would contend very strongly that we could be in even worse trouble if we elect someone who is not willing to understand the million pages or whatever it is now of Obamacare and understand from individuals and businesses and agents and doctors and hospitals what really is the awful things about it, but to understand that there are some parts of Obamacare that are good. And if we have someone get into office and just say, we're going to do away with it and defund it, it will be an awful, awful thing. So,
Okay.
it scared me this morning when I first woke up and I heard Marco Rubio saying, oh my God, Donald Trump thinks that there's some good things about Obamacare. No matter who you're voting for, no matter who I'm voting for, there are some good things about it. There are some things that are ruining this country. Please let us elect someone who is going to have sense to understand it completely before they go and put a wrecking ball to it. I think that is the most important thing that I'm looking for in a candidate, is someone who won't just, because I don't know about you, but I'd rather someone be honest and say, you know what, we're gonna look at it. Yeah, we think it needs to go away, but we're gonna be smart enough to take a look at it because they weren't smart enough to take a look at it in the beginning, and that's what's happened.
Do you have a personal story behind that?
Well, it's because I sell health insurance for individuals and Medicare, and Obamacare is running into Medicare and had some very negative effects on Medicare, insofar as cost, and I see it personally every day. I've got clients on both ends of the spectrum, and so, and Texas didn't agree to the Medicaid expansion, and I think that was a very wise decision. And I've had to defend that to a lot of people that are caught in that netherworld of not being able to get Medicaid, but not being able to afford a subsidy. But the country will go, it's already going to go bankrupt with all of the subsidies and everything the government is throwing at the states and the people in order to keep this thing alive. It is a well-known fact that it's going to implode in 2017. Will Obama do something before 2017? No, he's going to leave that disaster.
And Hillary wanted to do it back when Bill was president. He wanted, and I understand that. I really do understand it. But there's a couple of things here that you don't have to tell the people in Friendswood. I mean, you have excellent schools, local government. Everything functions very well. I mean, it's got to be one of the top communities around. But most of the time, we're going to get the school, the education system that we work for, not the one we hope for, the one we work for, the one we're involved in, the one that we invest in. You know, not even God expects to reap where He hasn't sown. And so He tells us that. And so the school is important. Because I hear all the time, well, you just need to throw more money to education. I hear it all the time. I hear it all the time. We took $15 billion that the legislature did in 2009 with stimulus money, and we came back, and there were $15 billion short. In fact, we were $26 billion short because we took that money. But it was a one-shot deal, one-shot infusion. So you can't use that money for maintenance programs. Things that are dedicated budget items have to be funded. The only thing we have to do in the legislature, which is the good news, is pass House Bill 1. We can't leave till we do. We have to, House Bill 1 is the budget. We have to pass that. But we're to the point where I look and see it's not a matter of advantage or disadvantaged. It is a matter of the fact that we have to monitor and invest ourselves into what goes on. I was talking to the chairman of appropriations, who's John Otto, CPA in Dayton, Texas, super nice guy. And he made a comment about some of the closing comment when the committee was leaving, and I followed him out the hallway and I said, did I just hear you correctly? Did you say that we're about to write the IRS a check for $243 million? He said, we are. I said, could you explain that to me? He said, that's the Affordable Care Act tax. We have third-party administrators who administer our Medicaid programs. That's their tax from the government. We're reimbursing them for what they've already paid the
What was
IRS.
that amount again?
243 million.
Galveston County's amount was $119,000 last year.
Yeah.
The previous year was $90,000.
So,
The
you know,
number continues to rise.
yeah, so we sit here and wonder what goes on and why it goes on, but, we all know that we're in trouble. What we don't know sometimes is what we do. Well, we vote. You know what, I may not get the flavor that I like, out of the Republican primaries, but it won't matter to me. Do not stay home, and do not listen to people tell you stay home, because that is a vote in itself. That's a no vote. That won't work. That won't work. You need to vote, and everybody around you needs to go vote. I mean, you understand that we're in a state here called the state of Texas, where, but for one vote, that a farmer, that they pulled off the plow and got him to go vote, we'd be speaking German today. It'd be the official language of the state of Texas. One vote. One vote. And well, that's not, yeah, it is. It's that critical. It's that critical. We have to vote. We can't, 20% of evangelicals stayed home for Romney. Stayed home. I'm appalled by that. I really am. Don't tell me that, because that's not right. That's not right. You don't have a voice if you don't vote. Anyway.
I
Yeah,
have one.
yes.
Oh, okay, I have one. Would you touch briefly on the Lieutenant Governor's presence in Galveston County for the Galveston Chamber and at the reception that we were at in regards to his focus on the ports of Texas?
Yes, ma'am. We're continuing to try to attract attention to this area. That we feel like that the Port of Galveston is very underutilized. I know they wouldn't tell you that, but that's what we feel like. As a state, we feel like that it has much more potential than what we're seeing actually demonstrated through their economic plan. And so the Lieutenant Governor is very interested in that. He's taken an interest into it. We've got some connections. Of course, he's from Houston, from Katy, and so he came to Galveston and met, had a meeting at a local business there, and then the chamber, to their credit, the Galveston Chamber of Commerce honored him and the legislature and other people there who they felt like it made a difference. And so it's a smart thing to do. We need to be able to maximize our potential, and he sees the need for that. And so he's trying very diligently to help. And so we're going to continue to see him back here.
And he did appoint a special committee. I know Senator Taylor's on there. I don't know who else is, but it's an investigative committee to see the needs of the ports.
Yeah, correct. And it's kind of a coastal thing. Yeah, it's very much a coastal thing. So I'm pretty sure I'll be on that committee as well.
I hope so.
I'm pretty sure that I will be. So.
Do you need a reference?
No, thank you.
Well, thank you very much.